Good morning. I too would like to pay my respects to the Gadigal people, but also to the traditional and current custodians of the land from which I'm from, the Wiradjuri and Waveroo people. Their presence enriches our gatherings and acknowledge the invaluable contributions of Indigenous cultures to our shared humanity. And in light of today's discussion, I also wanted to extend my gratitude to individuals who have bravely shared their lived experiences of trauma, distress, and recovery, especially those who have done this inside systems that claim to promote well-being but often fell short. The stories that have come before have provided us with invaluable insights and opportunity to challenge the status quo for alternative approaches to healing. I am committed to collaborating with others to create a space where recovery can be supported in ways that honour the unique circumstances of each individual. It's essential to recognise that every space contains a spectrum of lived and living experiences, and by acknowledging this diversity, we can foster environments that promote empathy, understanding, and genuine support. So, I will do some of my presentation today. Oh, thank you. I have the power. Oh, which one? There we go. So, my presentation today is called Embracing Voices and Meaning Making. As Evelini said, I now identify as a proud voice hearer, but I'm also a mum of two incredible little humans, who can often be very difficult little humans. I am a critical social worker that works in a clinical mental health space, and I am the chair of Intervoice. It's ironic hearing you guys talk about 15 years, because it was 15 years ago that my life changed in a way that I never ever could have imagined. So some of my presentation today I will read, some I will talk, and some will probably surprise me as well, because I never know what I'm going to say. So, without further ado, "19 years ago, my world was a tapestry woven with threads of despair, each knot tied to a memory too painful to unravel. In the shadows of my past, I sought refuge from the cacophony of voices that echoed through the corridors of my mind. Each whisper a haunting reminder. I was enveloped in a suffocating embrace of what I perceived to be mental illness. I was shackled by the belief that my identity was defined by my diagnosis, a notion that was reinforced by the world around me. How did I arrive at such a desolate state? How at just the tender age of 18 did I find myself devoid of hope, consumed by a sense of worthlessness, and determined to surrender to the abyss of despair? To unravel this enigma, I've embarked on a journey of introspection, seeking to understand the myriad of experiences that have sculpted my existence. Mental illness has been an unwelcome companion in my life since before I was born. My mother's battle with bipolar disorder had cast a long shadow over a fractured household. The volatile atmosphere was punctuated by unexplained absences, and the echoes of her struggles set the stage for the tumultuous journey that lay ahead. My childhood was a crucible of turmoil and trauma, shaped by the tumultuous dynamics of a household that was marred by mental illness. And when I talk about the multitude of adverse childhood experiences, I'm going to share a few of these with you now. My parents were madly in love. I had three older siblings from my mother's first marriage, and my mother had been struggling with her diagnosis of bipolar disorder since she was 18. What transpired was she went off her medication to have me because I was very much wanted. However, she was very unwell throughout the whole pregnancy. It was quite a scary time, and when I was born via emergency Caesar, I think I had 12 hours with her, before she was taken off and admitted to an inpatient unit for an extensive stay. So for the first formative months of my life, my father was my primary caregiver. And when my mother returned, I think our attachment and bond was actually quite difficult to navigate. My parents' relationship broke down when I was 3 years of age. And I felt that grief profoundly. Not recognising that my father had left a really difficult relationship, I just felt abandoned. At this time, I spent a lot of time with my mother's parents, who at the time I thought everything was kind of okay. What I didn't recognise was that I was being groomed. And this is very difficult to say, and I understand very difficult to hear, but throughout my childhood, and I'm not sure how early it started, but I was groomed, sexually, physically abused and neglected by my maternal grandparents, both of them. And the web of secrecy and the immense guilt and shame that suppressed this within me has been something that I still have to deal with and unravel. At, that younger age, when I was with my grandparents, it felt like a lot more stability. I was also getting a lot of physical things, lots of material things. And it felt a bit more safe and consistent than the trauma, I suppose, that I experienced when I was with my mother. It was pretty scary living with a mother who was as volatile as mine was. It was also equally scary to some of the strange people that she brought into our lives. So whilst I was sexually abused inside my family, I was also sexually abused outside of my family. And what this did was tell me a story and a narrative that I've come to understand was not true, but it took some time to understand this. I believed inherently that the reason I kept getting harmed by people was because I wanted it, because I deserved it. I was very confused by the fact that my body responded to things that I didn't want to happen to me, and this sense of shame and guilt permeated my very essence. I had lots of difficulties at this time, and amidst the chaos, the whispers of voices had become my constant companions. Benign, some even friendly, a haunting reminder of the fragility of sanity and the resilience of the human spirit. I had voices that reassured, provided interaction, laughed, reprimanded, and parented. However, as I began to grow and as adolescence dawned, the shadows of my past cast a long shadow over my burgeoning sense of self. Multiple losses at this time marked the onset of my descent into darkness or madness, a shift in the voice's content and presentation, a descent that was punctuated by self-harm, substance misuse, and a pervasive sense of despair. I was diagnosed at 15 years of age, medicated, and left. I found myself ensnared in a labyrinth of psychiatric labels, each one a weight tethering me further into the abyss. Imagine feeling trapped in a world where your voice is silenced, your experiences brushed aside, and your very essence reduced to a checklist of symptoms. Because that was my reality. As I grappled with the throes of intense distress being conceptualised as mental illness, a reality where professionals wielded power without empathy, where medication replaced meaningful dialogue, and where the pursuit of a life worth living seemed unattainable. I can vividly recall the harrowing days leading up to Christmas of 2006. A time when despair had threatened to consume me whole. I was admitted to a psychiatric ward. I found myself ensnared in a system that prioritised conformity over compassion, medication over meaningful connection, and the sterile corridors within the hospital system were filled with ghosts of my mother's own struggles and what it was like growing up inside, visiting her in those places. My hospitalisation became a battleground where I fought tooth and nail against a tide of indifference and neglect. I was labelled as treatment resistant and non-compliant, And again, I felt like I had failed because even the medication and the doctors couldn't help me. So drugs and self-harm became my only solace, a temporary reprieve from the torment of my mind. Yet amidst this clinical monotony, sinister presences emerged. New voices, cruel, relentless, echoing the trauma of my past with chilling clarity. In the depths of this despair, I longed for a lifeline, a beacon of hope. Instead, I found myself dragged further into the abyss, subjected to seclusion and isolation, my cries for help falling on deaf ears. Where was the warmth, the understanding, the compassion that I so desperately needed to heal? There were multiple incidents when I was an inmate, as I like to refer to it, because it absolutely felt like a jail, where I was blamed for the way I was acting and told that it was because I used drugs and alcohol. I was told that I had drug-induced psychosis because I was hearing voices, and I wondered how that could be possible, as I had heard voices since I could remember hearing them since I was about 3. So my internal experiences didn't match my internal presentations. I partied really hard with probably not quite the people that you want your 16, 17, 18-year-old partying with. However, I was really seeking a sense of belonging. I entered a relationship with a man who was a lot older than me, and it was full of domestic violence. The way I acted was very angry. I didn't let anybody know what was going on inside. During these hospitalisations, when I was medicated, labelled and left, I became unable to talk about what was really going on. The voices didn't get any less, didn't get any quieter. In fact, they became louder. However, my ability to speak and articulate was lost because I was so heavily medicated. Can you imagine being this age and taking medication so heavy for you that you can't wake up in the night and you wet the bed? You go to the doctor, you tell him what's going on, and instead of him lowering your medication, which would to me seem like a really reasonable thing to do, I was given a nasal spray to stop me going to the toilet or needing to go to the toilet at night. I was so confused by psychiatry. I was so lost. My road to recovery has been fraught with setbacks and struggles, a relentless cycle of hospitalisation, medication adjustments, and brushes with despair. Yet through it all, somehow, I had a flicker of resilience that remained, a spark of hope that refused to be extinguished. And that spark of hope was very much coming out as anger, resentment, fear, and bad behaviour. I know that the nurses on the ward absolutely despised the times that I was there. They made it very apparent that I was hard work, that I was not likeable, that they held no hope for my future. I was told multiple times to take my medication and shut up. However, eventually a glimmer of hope did emerge, a beacon of light amidst the swirling tempest of despair. Through the intervention of some dedicated professionals and the embrace of peer support networks, I embarked on a journey of self-discovery and redemption. From the sterile confines of psychiatric wards to the warmth of community-based support groups, I found solace in the embrace of kindred spirits and the transformative power of shared experience. So whilst I was labelled treatment resistant and non-compliant, and I can actually safely say that these are probably the 2 labels that saved me, I realised that what psychiatry had to offer was lacking. It didn't offer me anything that I needed to find out myself, who I was, who I wanted to be, and to understand what had happened to me. I was often asked what was wrong with me. I was never asked what had happened to me. There was no trauma-informed lens, there was no compassion, and there was no care. So this did mark my journey towards recovery and self-discovery, as I've come to like to call it, because I wasn't trying to recover who I was before. Here, I encountered individuals who asked me the right questions and offered the compassion, warmth, and empathy I desperately needed and knew that I deserved. It was a space where I was encouraged to explore and make sense of my experiences, where I received practical strategies and skills that worked. Attending this young people's program, I had to lie about where I lived because I come from a border town, Albury-Wodonga. I lived in New South Wales, the young people's program was in Victoria, and I was lucky that there were some crafty professionals there who gave me a fixed address so I could attend the young people's program. So it was there that I connected with others, and it was also there that I was introduced to the Hearing Voices Network. Now, Hearing Voices had been something that I stopped talking about. I can remember being young and at school and kind of talking to a friend about the voices that I heard, and she looked at me like I had a second head. So there were lots of messages that I received from the world around me that hearing voices was not okay. So this is one of the most profound moments in my journey, was hearing Jackie Dillon speak. For those of you who don't know her, I encourage you to look her up. She's a phenomenal woman from the UK. I vividly remember being sat in that room, unable to speak because I was so heavily medicated, hearing her talk about her life, her experience with voices, and the Hearing Voices approach. I was awestruck by this woman's strength, her courage, her determination. Her story inspired me in ways that I'd never, ever experienced before. I finally had confirmation that what I was experiencing was not some dreaded, incurable affliction, but rather a completely normal human response. Hearing voices wasn't a symptom of a terrifying disease. It was a remarkably creative way of coping. This realisation empowered me to break free from the constraints the medical model's limited view had put on my life. So piece by piece, I began to rebuild myself, though progress often felt like taking one step forward and 28 back. I started to see changes when I took charge of my own destiny, but I was unable to access doctors or psychiatrists to support the reduction of my own medication, and it was an obnoxious amount of medication that I was prescribed. I began tapering off my own medication. I took matters into my own hands without informing a soul. And it was a horrible experience. Those initial months were excruciating, but gradually my mind did clear. The fog began to lift. I'd been lost before. It has been a journey marked by hard work and unwavering determination. With each passing day, my situation improved and my thirst for knowledge became insatiable. However, I was still using quite a bit of drugs and alcohol to kind of find myself, to feel okay, to fit in, to feel like a normal young person. I was critically examining the mental health services and drug and alcohol services, and repeatedly told that they couldn't help me there because I had a mental health issue, and I couldn't get drug and alcohol support because I had a mental health issue. I began to attend a NA group, which was also not a safe space. There was lots of very complex adults who had very difficult journeys, and I was a very young, vulnerable person who should probably not have been in that space at all. But what was happening at this time was a passionate desire to ease the experiences of others. I was really seeking to find out how I could be part of a paradigm shift where individuals were valued for who they were and for their potential, rather than limited by drug use or diagnostic labels. In 2009, my journey of discovery took an unexpected turn as I found myself among a small delegation bound for the world's first Hearing Voices Congress in Maastricht, Holland. Little did I know this pivotal moment would alter the course of my life forever. Stepping into the bustling halls of Congress, I was greeted by a sea of faces, voice hearers, professionals and allies, and all united in their quest for understanding and empowerment. Here, amidst the vibrant tapestry of voices and experiences, I found my tribe, my people, a community bound together by shared struggles and shared triumphs. As I listened to these personal accounts of individuals bravely navigating their own journeys, I was struck by the profound sense of solidarity that permeated the air. Psychiatrists and voice hearers sat side by side, engaging in meaningful dialogue, challenging the outdated us versus them mentality that had long plagued the mental health landscape. In this inclusive space, a power imbalance dissolved, giving way to a spirit of collaboration and mutual respect. Each voice, whether whispered or shouted, was met with open ears and open hearts. A testament to the transformative power of genuine human connection. As I absorbed the wealth of knowledge and wisdom shared within those hallowed halls, I felt a profound shift taking place within me. Gone was the sense of isolation and alienation that had plagued me for so long, and replaced instead with a newfound sense of purpose and belonging. Leaving the Congress, I carried with me not only a renewed sense of determination and a wealth of insights, but I wanted to be part of a positive change within my community. It was a humbling reminder that my journey of discovery was far from over. There was still much to learn and much work to be done. Today, as I reflect on that transformative experience, I'm reminded by the power of community, the power of coming together, not as individuals, but as human beings, united in our shared humanity. And it is with this sense of unity and purpose that I continue to advocate for a more inclusive, compassionate, and kind approach to mental health and substance use. One that embraces the diversity of human experiences and honours the voices of all who seek to be heard. As I've journeyed along the path of discovery, I've found purpose in advocacy and empowerment, a calling to challenge stigma and misconceptions surrounding mental health and substance use. I endeavoured to amplify the voices of those marginalised by psychiatric labels, offering solace and solidarity to all who dared to dream of a brighter tomorrow. At the heart of my journey lies the transformative power of connection and empathy, a force capable of bridging the gaping chasms of isolation and despair. Though the bonds forged in shared struggle and shared triumph, I discovered the true meaning of resilience and the boundless potential of hope. From the depths of despair emerged a community, united in solidarity, a community committed to fostering healing, understanding, and acceptance. Discovering my tribe within the Hearing Voices movement was just the beginning of what has been a long and sometimes really arduous journey. Despite the camaraderie and support I found among my fellow voice hearers and allies, I soon realised there was much work to be done internally to unravel the intricate tapestry of my own inner world and forge a path towards healing. One of the first hurdles I faced was developing a relationship with my voices, understanding their content and their role in my life. Drawing upon the myriad of resources embedded in the Hearing Voices approach, such as voice dialoguing and voice profiling, I embarked on a journey of introspection and exploration. It was a daunting bloody task, one that stirred up a whirlwind of emotions, from terror, shame to guilt, but even pride. And as I began to vocalise those dormant words that I'd long been suppressed within me, what I spoke about earlier regarding guilt and shame and my bodily responses, when I spoke them out loud, I was not met with judgment. I was met with compassion, empathy. Speaking the truth out loud, I confronted those core beliefs that had fueled the sense of guilt and shame, dismantling the notion that my bodily responses defined my worth. Nurturing a relationship with my voices required patience and understanding. Acknowledging their presence and giving voice to their needs, I learned to process my experiences, emotions, and feelings as my guides. It's a journey of self-discovery marked by moments of triumph and setbacks, yet also grounded in the belief that healing was possible. I just realised this slide was meant to be back. However, it was at this time that I began working in mental health, and the no wrong door policy was kind of being pushed out. And it kind of wasn't working. Even in our local community, we had people saying, you can come here. Oh, actually, no, that's a bit too tricky for us. That's a little bit too complex. So there were lots of wrong doors. Was it drug and alcohol? Was it mental health? It was very confusing. So recovery has been co-opted, I believe, by institutions, colonised, so to speak. And it's deeply personal to me. While support from organisations, professionals and programs are invaluable, true recovery must be person-centred and person-led. I did not seek to return to my pre-diagnosis self. Instead, I embarked on a journey of discovery, navigating roadblocks and gaining new insights along the way. Despite outward appearances of success, I grappled with unresolved issues lurking just beneath the surface. However, through it all, I've clung to the words of wisdom from Khalil Gibran that's guided me through the darkest of nights, reminding me that I'd already borne the pain. So I'd like to share that quote with you now. Many of us spend our whole lives running from the feeling with the mistaken belief that you cannot bear the pain, but you've already borne the pain. What you have not done is feel all you are beyond that pain. With each step forward, I reclaimed a sense of agency over my own narrative, no longer defined by the traumas of my past, but empowered by the resilience of my spirit. Though my journey is far from over, I take solace in knowing that I'm not alone, that I have a tribe of fellow travellers who stand beside me, offering support, understanding, and unwavering hope. As I continue to navigate the twists and turns of my own healing journey, I do so with the knowledge that I'm stronger and more resilient than I ever thought possible. So amidst the turmoil, I continue to find solace in the wisdom of dear friend who told me it doesn't have to be a breakdown, Kellie, it could be a breakthrough. As I confront the darkest corners of my past, I am overwhelmed with gratitude for the resilience of my inner world. Where the journey ahead remains uncertain, I'm buoyed by the knowledge that we've weathered many storms and we've emerged stronger for it. What truly facilitated my journey was embracing my voices and providing them with what I had lacked by creating a safe environment, recognising their origin, so realising that my voices were intertwined with my experiences and for me represented disassociated experiences and past traumas was pivotal. Through voice dialoguing, I provided a structured framework through which I could understand the role and purpose of each voice in my life. And finally, in embracing my vulnerability and staying true to myself and my values became central to me acknowledging and accepting this. I found strength and authenticity, enabling me to navigate the complexities of my inner world with courage and resilience. So this is my tribe in 2009 at the world's first Hearing Voices Congress. And just recently, I got to have Dr. Dirk Corstens and Trevor Isles come to my hometown just last week, spend a week with me and do a training there. They hung out with my kids and it was just so reaffirming that, these are my people, these are my chosen family. The Hearing Voices movement is amazing, and if you don't know about it, find out about it. I'm the current chair of Intervoice. I've been on the board of Intervoice since 2012, and I've been the chair for the last 3 years. So as I look ahead, I find myself entrusted with the profound responsibility of safeguarding my 2 beautiful children in a world that can often feel perilous. A task that seems formidable and precious. My aspiration is to continue sharing my journey, striving to dismantle the truth, stigma and fear surrounding the experience of hearing voices and how we cope with these experiences. I firmly believe that relationships and connections are indispensable to the process of recovery, to reclaiming our humanity and achieving success. We both, as individuals and communities, possess the power to challenge entrenched stereotypes and stigmas by expanding our perspectives, educating ourselves, and bravely engaging in conversations about normal human experiences without taboo. Oops, I've gone too far. Loss, grief, trauma, and stresses are universal aspects of the human condition. Coping mechanisms vary from person to person. Hearing voices is just one manifestation of this diversity, as is substance misuse. By fostering understanding and acceptance, we can combat the self-stigma that often inhibits individuals from sharing their experiences openly and we can empower people to construct their own narratives and find meaning in their experiences. For me, voices are not anomalies, but rather variations in human characteristics, serving as guides and messengers that illuminate emotional responses and challenges that I have going on. If there's any takeaways from today's presentation, I hope that it's this, is that every individual possesses the innate capacity to heal and transcend mere survival, thriving in a manner that resonates with their unique essence and aspirations. And remember, while it's equally important to hold on to your values steadfastly, it's equally vital to maintain an openness to new perspectives that may reshape your understanding of the world. It was in the embrace of compassionate allies and supportive communities that I found the strength to reclaim my voice, to challenge the stigma and misconceptions surrounding mental health, and to advocate for a system that prioritises empathy and understanding above all else. Thank you.